We'll call the meeting of the Minot City Council to order for today, Monday, January 6, 2020, seeing it is 5:30 in the afternoon now. If I could once again remind everyone with electronic devices to either put them onto vibrate or silence to keep the distractions down to a minimum, we would appreciate it. Roll call, please.
Janser.
Here.
Olson. Here. Pittner.
Here.
Padragula.
Here.
Straight.
Here.
Wolski.
Here.
Sitma.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 3 on our agenda this evening is the mayor's report. And Derek, I don't have the clicker, so I'm going to rely on you to advance me on this one. I did have a number of activities, even though it was kind of that holiday busy season. I'll just draw you attention to a few of these. On December 5th, we did have the Military Affairs Committee, and I do want to recognize that the Minot High School's band, or rather singers that were going around for their holiday music, did an outstanding job, absolutely phenomenal. Second year in a row that I've heard them. Also on December 5th, I did have an opportunity to speak with the folks at Edgewood Vista at their senior facility over on 16th. Great afternoon with some coffee and great Q&A discussion. And then also on the 5th, Minot Association of Builders emceeing their Christmas event, which last year I think actually they won an award for their involvement with their membership. On December 10th, then, we did have the City Hall Technical Committee, Team Committee meeting on the 11th City Employees Awards over at the Minot Auditorium. On the 15th, then, the CP Rail Holiday Train was back in downtown Minot, a great turnout. Big thank you to everybody that came down there with their kids, and it was a great time, lots of hot chocolate and singing, and it wasn't ridiculously cold this year, so it was a great time downtown. On the 16th, as I mentioned, last meeting, we had the Ward County Weed Board, and then on December 18th, we did have, I did have a flood protection home acquisition signing, and then a litany of different interviews with both television and newspaper after that, including then on the 19th, MSU Holiday Social. I did have a number of other individual meetings with city staff, citizens, and other elected officials, including numerous phone calls and emails, as I say, each and every week. The scary eye on the screen is meant to be the Minot Through Your Eyes Community Challenge. It's not a scary eye. If you saw some of the previous pictures, it was a number of the other pictures that I've taken throughout the community over the years as the community through my eyes. So what we are looking at is providing an artistic view of the vision of Minot literally through people that are taking pictures or have taken pictures around Minot. This is for the state of the city. You can submit your entries online through the Instagram using hashtag MyMinot or hashtag OneMinot. The deadline then is January 27th. We expect the submissions to illustrate the diverse views within our own community. And for me, if you would, if you're submitting them, just tell me something a little bit about what you do to help kind of illustrate what it is Minot Through Your Eyes. And then, as I mentioned, the winners will be announced at the State of the City. That is on February 6th at the Minot's Arvel Graving Theater, as the location has been now for 3 years in a row. That is my abbreviated report this afternoon. Any questions? If not, then I would turn our attention to the mayoral appointments. I did have a couple of them included in the packet this afternoon.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move your appointments.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Janser to approve and second by Alderman Olson. Discussion on the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Janser.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Pittner.
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Straight.
Yes.
Wolski.
Yes.
Sitma.
Yes, motion is approved. That takes us to number 4 on our agenda, the city manager's report. Mr. Tom Berry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, good evening. Happy New Year to you all. It's great to be off and running on a brand new year, a new decade, and all that sort of thing. I have a little bit shorter city manager report for you this year, or excuse me, this month. So let's just jump right into it. All right, we'll turn this on. Okay. First of all, I'll talk about a few important dates. They're up here on the screen. I wanted to remind the community and certainly yourselves that the Planning Commission's meeting schedule has changed for this next year. They will now be meeting the first Tuesday of every month for the remainder of the year. And of course, that puts it at January 7th or tomorrow night for the Planning Commission at 5:30 in this room. Just a reminder, Martin Luther King Day will be observed by the city on January 20th, and so offices will be closed. The next City Council meeting will be moved from what would have been January 20th to the 21st, of course, being held in this room. And then the State of the City address will be held on February 6th, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. So a couple things really quick. It is that time every 2 years now that we're on the 2-year cycle for elections for us to make the call for those who are interested in running for City Council. We have 3 seats that will become available. Those 3 seats will, the new person potentially will be seated in June. They'll require 300 signatures in order to be placed on the ballot, and the deadline for submitting all applications will be April 6th at 4 p.m. here in City Hall. The election, as I mentioned, June 9th in the Minot Auditorium for this year. So that's kind of exciting, and we'll look to those hopefully on the City Council and certainly in our community to run for that. Wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about the year in review. It's always nice, I think, at the start of a new year to look back reflectively and just share some of the highlights of the year. So I'll jump right in. There were a couple major highlights of this year. We were able to maintain our financial correction going forward, of course, without a tax increase, which has been great. That means that in the last 3 years, we have been able to restore about $13 million a year in revenues and also achieve a net reduction in staff by almost 15 people, and also sustain reductions in operating costs by nearly $8 million. Also, that reduction includes the capturing of grants and donations and other sorts of things from other resources. So that's good. We did well this last year to stabilize the workforce. I've shared some of those numbers with you the last time we met, reducing staff turnover rate by 48%, from 14.9 to 7.5% anticipated for the end of the year of last year, and achieved a resultant savings of about $1.8 million in turnover costs. The vacancy rate for employees is just above 1%. So that's good. Hub City funding, we've talked about that a lot on and off throughout the year. We were very successful this year in boosting Hub City subsidy financing to the city by 250%. That was enormous for us. Large part, that had a lot to do with the reason we didn't need to take a tax increase this year. So that was really good. You all know that the legislative process was long, but that we went into it fairly prepared. We revised the process that we took and the approach with our legislators. We developed white papers. We had a totally different strategic approach to this. It resulted in some of the following achievements. One of the largest funding appropriations in the state history for water projects, an increase in the oil and gas subsidy that I just mentioned of $3 million, an increase in allowable traffic fines, although we haven't increased those yet. Many around the state are doing that. We're going to probably want to talk about that here fairly soon. An inclusion of the first of siren funds for the Siren 2020 project, successful defense of several property tax initiative assaults, and nearly a dozen attempts, although all failed, for a low-interest infrastructure revolving loan fund. And of course, that will dominate our work this year as we prepare for the next year's legislative session. Ordinance changes are next, and we did make about 24 changes, or 24 ordinances were changed, rather, which resulted in clarifying operations, modernizing policymaking, making more business-friendly improvements, and of course, improving litigation mitigation and attempts to reduce litigation against the city as well. And then lastly, as you know, I've been trying to move us more towards a data-driven decision-making approach, and we are continuing to expand into that realm, although it is in its infancy. The utilization of this approach is going to enable a more scientific approach to solving problems instead of treating symptoms all the time. It'll allow us to approach systems and processes in a more scientific way to achieve management of objectives and outcomes, and also ensure that the right action is going to be taken to improve progress towards our desired results. So more of that is going to be maturing as we go throughout this particular year. And as we talk about this year, let me talk with you briefly about sort of what we have planned in the first quarter and then the latter 3 quarters. We are going through, in this first quarter, a number of different activities, and one of those activities is executive team building. We're going to be working on culture, organizational culture throughout the year. We're starting first with the executive team. And so a number of the things that we're doing on the executive team will include things like discussing relationships on team and team dynamics. We're also going to try to strengthen trust and team building and participate in a number of those activities. We're also working on, as another activity, the 2019 goal report. And this is I think we talked about 105 different goals that were set for our team last year. So we'll be reporting those out to you before the end of the month. And so staff are finishing touches on that. The recruitment task force activity that was started in the fall of last year, we hope in the first quarter to finish that report and get that to you for recommendations. We'll also be finalizing development of key performance indicators as our first move into performance management as an organization. And then finally, in the first quarter, we will be developing the 2020 goals as we move forward into this next year. For the second, third, and fourth quarter of this year, these are the anticipated activities that we'd like to begin putting our effort towards. First of all, in customers, we do want to advance our customer service standards both in training, and we have already started that. We want to continue that. And we want to develop and administer a citizen satisfaction survey. This will be the first time that I think we've done that, at least in recent history. And we did put money in the budget for that. I appreciate you all supporting us on. But this will be a true, statistically valid citizen satisfaction survey, which will give us a benchline, because we won't have anything really to compare it against, in regards to measuring future progress in various programs and plans and projects and services and those types of things. Operationally, we want to continue to bring the city into the 21st century by advancing the enterprise resource planning program and project, and also asset management. We've talked on that. Evaluate and improve operations, and incorporate operational best management practices, as well as implement the KPIs that we have developed. For strategy section of our organization, we want to develop a citywide strategic plan. This will be a great deal of work. It'll take a long time for us to do. There are aspects of this that I anticipate we can start before the election, which might be actually prudent to start before the election, like conducting a SWOT analysis. That's something that you want to do with a lot of institutional knowledge. So maybe it makes sense for us to do that while we have our council, that we have now and have had for several years. But then setting new goals and objectives and tactics might be something that we want to wait till after the election, possibly. So we can talk about that. Also, we need to plan and prepare for the 2021 legislature. I know it seems early. It's just less than a year away now, or just about. We have a lot to do in this next legislative session. Although we were successful on a lot of fronts last year, we still have some pretty big lifts going into this next legislative year. So we need to work on strengthening relationships with legislators, working on the legacy fund, low interest revolving loan fund, and continue to focus on getting our appropriations for flood control. On the employee side, we want to improve recruitment and retention as part of our broader focus on organizational cultural improvements, develop recognition and reward program, a formal one inside the city, develop core values, which are going to get at how we treat one another and how we essentially make decisions as a team, and then finally develop a leadership development program for existing executives and also up-and-coming staff members that want to step into leadership roles, preparing them for those roles prior to them getting into those roles. I think that'll be a lot better. Finally, on the financial side, we want to maintain our fiscal stability. We do believe that we've reached a point of fiscal stability right now. We are monitoring the models and other financial needs and whatnot, and there are still a lot of needs out there, but some of those needs may be dependent upon how successful we are in the legislature next year about getting a low-interest revolving loan fund. That may buy us some time on having to make some tough decisions as it relates to other financial matters. So it's early to tell how things are going to go that way. But right now, I would say we're sitting pretty good and we're excited about that. And so we're going to need to continue to plan and prepare for future needs going forward. So next we'll move into, just want to update you quickly. You all had approved last council meeting the several code amendments to the city's code of ordinances, including the International Building Code amendments, the International Existing Building Code, the International Fire Code, and so on and so forth. We did hold the building and inspection team did hold an education workshop. We had about 40 attendees, contractors, builders, and whatnot, that attended to learn about the code changes, which was great. And I'm really grateful to Mitch and his team for hosting this and getting people up to speed with what these changes are going to mean and how they can best incorporate these changes into projects going forward in 2020. So we're excited about that. Airport boardings is kind of exciting because essentially our airport, Minot International Airport, had the highest growth comparing November of 2018 to November of 2019 in boardings than any other airport in the state of North Dakota. That was a 10% increase. That's pretty cool. We do know Fargo has grown tremendously and continues to grow on a percentage basis, though. We beat them this year. If you look at November to November, right? There's a lot of it. Maybe they beat us most of the other time. In any event, that's pretty cool. So what does this mean, kind of looking over historical time? Well, that means this. We are approaching one of the highest boardings that we've ever had, and that was in 2015, up around 167,000 boardings. We're at 150, so for 2019, that's pretty good. So the vision that the City Council had in building the airport to the size with expandability, I think is a good one, and I think that is exactly what we're seeing if you look at 2017, 2018, 2019, if those trends continue. So that's good. So we're on track for the highest yearly passenger total since 2015. All right. Just want to remind you, friendly reminder that the community engagement strategy has been delivered to you. We are very interested in your comments and feedback on that. We're not asking for any action this evening, so it's not on the agenda, but we would like to get any feedback that you have on it. So just as a reminder, if you could please send that to me or Tammy Strokeland. That would be great, and we'll consolidate that, make any revisions necessary. We do want to try to get this adopted, or at least informally adopted, so that you all can say, yes, we generally like what your approach is here. Please go and do it, and that way we'll start the training and get everybody sort of utilizing this thing. So just a little plug for looking for feedback and anticipate requests for action on that, probably at the next council meeting, unless we get a lot of feedback and need to take some time. We do want to say farewell. We can't get all the retirements in the city, but we had a couple big ones this year, this last month. Barb McPeak, who's been our PSAP manager in dispatch, is retiring after 32 years, which is pretty impressive. She's been the department lead dispatcher since 2007 and is leaving a big hole, which has been filled, I'm excited to say, internally, and we're excited about the new and upcoming things that will happen in dispatch. But we also want to give our congratulations to Barb and certainly thank and congratulate her on her retirement. Also, just last week, we celebrated Landy Fuchs, retirement of 24 years. She's been a pivotal role in our city and actually helping to transfer. She's been in our City Hall building for a long time. Has been almost a nerve center, if you will, for a lot of the activities, including elections, for example, that have occurred inside the city. And we're sad to see her leave. I'm told she's headed to Georgia for the rest of the winter, which will be kind of fun. In any event, I do want to say farewell to both of them. At the same time, we want to talk about a couple staff promotions here. Luke Tillema is our new building official. He took over for Mitch Flanagan, and he's got 5 years as a mechanical inspector, and he's been a Minot resident for 25 years. So we're excited to have him join the team, and I'm excited working with him. Mitch leaves some very big shoes to fill. I'm sure Luke will fit those shoes here very soon. And then Gage DeGroot, mechanical inspector, who's been 2 years with the city as a plumbing inspector, has been also promoted essentially And he's a lifelong resident as well and does have a master plumber license with the state of North Dakota, which is all good. So I want to celebrate those promotions and congratulate those staff members that have decided to take in their career to the next step and serve at a higher level in our organization. Next, I would like to get the police chief to join me for this next one. The North Dakota Peace Officers Association